Well, it was supposed to be a humanitarian intervention, an effort to help a people who rose up against a brutal regime, blood to prevent a bloodbath, or so went the argument. But a year later, the outcome of NATO's intervention in Libya remains murky. Reports of militias roaming wild, chaos, uncertainty, and the rule of law seemingly nowhere to be seen. Now, are these the growing pains of democracy or the continuation of a civil war that shows no sign of resting up? Well, journalist Stephen Lenman joins me now. He's been covering this issue. So let's take the question to him. Stephen, what's your assessment of the current events in Libya a year later?
Libya, in a word, Lucy, is a charnel house. Libya, before the insurgency began, before a NATO-backed, supported armed insurgency began, was peaceful and calm. It had Africa's highest standard of living. The Libyan people had benefits Americans can only dream of: free education, free health care, stipends for newlyweds, free housing help. There was no homelessness in Libya. Libya now is ravaged. NATO came in. Whenever NATO shows up, Lucy, violence, mass killing, mass destruction follows, and now it continues to rage. It will rage. There'll be protracted conflict, I think, for years to come. You've got these rogue killer gangs, the same ones, the same types that are ravaging Syria, they're ravaging Libya. Libyans are being killed. There's a green resistance. This is the Jamahiriya loyalists, the people who supported Gaddafi with good reason. He supported them. He gave them all these wonderful social benefits. They're all gone. NATO took them away. The country is absolutely in turmoil, and this thing will go on.
Well, let's not paint Gaddafi as a saint. Of course, a lot of atrocious crimes committed by that government, too, but that still doesn't necessarily rise to the level of interventionism. And so you mentioned Syria. What do you think the motivation would be for some sort of destabilization or intervention in Syria for the West? Doesn't it threaten the West if it leads to more instability and chaos?
Oh, well, Washington thrives on instability, Lucy. Instability gives Washington a reason to intervene. And Washington's aim is very simple, backed by key NATO partners, backed by Israel. Washington wants complete dominance over the region, the Middle East, North Africa, into Central Asia, to Russia and China's borders. It needs instability to justify going in. If it doesn't exist, it creates it. Again, Libya was calm. Syria was calm. Iran has been calm. All three are targeted for one reason. They're independent regimes. They're not pro-Western. Washington won't tolerate this. It wants pro-Western client states. Where they don't exist, Washington intervenes any way it needs to.
But Stephen, in the case of Syria, for example, if we look at who the opposition is, right, we have these Sunni youths. Many of them have been radicalized after years of sort of living in the minority there. And if we do back the rebels, if there is intervention, if these guys come into power, what's the guarantee that this would be some sort of a government that would be subservient or even open to working with the U.S.? We haven't really had the best history of working with radical Islamists, say for arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan in our fights against the Soviets.
Well, the Mujahideen were created by the West during the Reagan administration. Al-Qaeda is a Washington-created entity. Al-Qaeda, by the way, is used both as enemy and an ally. It's used as an ally, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan.
How is Al-Qaeda used as an ally?
I'm sorry?
How is Al-Qaeda used as an ally?
Well, the Mujahideen fought the Soviets in Afghanistan, and that was the ally. But rhetorically, Al-Qaeda is demonized as an enemy, but Al-Qaeda is used. Bin Laden, when he was alive, was used. He didn't realize it. He was being used through Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence. It's ISI. This is the way America operates. But America has no qualm about an Islamist government. Look at Saudi Arabia. Extremely radicalized Islamists, close U.S. ally. It would be very happy to assemble a government in Syria, in Libya, anywhere in the region. What America wants is any regime, whether it's Islamist, secular, whatever, radical, not so radical, it simply wants a regime that supports Western interests, mainly Washington's. What's going on in Syria, you've got two opposition groups. You've got a nonviolent one internally in the country, and you've got the violent Western-generated one, the Free Syrian Army, the Syrian National Council based in Turkey. They support violence. But the nonviolent opposition, Assad doesn't attack them. He attacks defensively when the violent insurgents attack Libyan people. It was a little bit different in Libya. The insurgents were violent. There was only one insurgency. It was violent. It was Western supported. It was supported on the ground by UK, by French, by Qatari special forces, US and British intelligence. Early on, before the bombing began in March in Libya, six UK special forces were helicoptered in at night. They were caught. They were dressed in black. They had maps. They were heavily armed. And the UK government said this about them.
And we're going to have to, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave that as a cliffhanger. What did the UK government say? I'm sure you'll be writing about this. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Stephen Lenman, writer and host of the Progressive Radio News Hour, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lucy.